Australians aren't leaving cities for lifestyle reasons. They're being pushed out. If you earn $120,000 a year in Sydney, you still can't afford to buy the average house. That's the reality no one talks about when they say Australian cities are full of opportunity. You're told if you move to Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane, you'll build a career. You'll get access. You'll make it work. And for a while, that was true. Cities were the gateway. The more you earned, the more you could own. The system rewarded ambition. Your parents did it. They moved to the city in their 20s, bought a house in their 30s, paid it off before they retired. That was the deal. Work hard, save smart, build equity. But somewhere along the way, that stopped being the case. Now, Australians are leaving cities in record numbers. Not because they want to, because they have to. And the people replacing them, they're not locals anymore. This isn't about lifestyle. It's not about escaping the rat race or finding a slower pace. It's about survival. Because staying in the city now means choosing between owning a home and having a life. And most people can't afford both. Here's where it breaks down. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment "I subscribe" below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. Sydney's median house price is $1.6 million. Melbourne's is $1.1 million. Brisbane's crossed $900,000. To buy that Sydney house, you need a household income of at least $250,000 a year, assuming perfect credit, a 20% deposit, and no other debt. Most households don't earn that. The median household income in Sydney is $116,000. That gap, it's not closing, it's widening. Between 2020 and 2024, Sydney's population grew by over 200,000 people. But housing approvals dropped. Supply couldn't keep up. Prices exploded. And rent followed. The median rent for a two-bedroom apartment in Sydney is now $750 a week. That's $39,000 a year. Before food. Before transport. Before anything else. If you're earning $90,000, which is above the national average, more than 40% of your income is gone before you eat. This is the part nobody plans for. You move to the city for the salary. But the salary doesn't cover the city. You think you're investing in your future, but you're actually just paying someone else's mortgage. And here's what makes it worse. The salary boost you get from living in the city, it doesn't keep pace with the cost increase. A marketing manager in Sydney might earn $95,000. The same role in Toowoomba pays $75,000. That's a $20,000 difference. But in Sydney, your rent is $39,000. In Toowoomba, it's $22,000. You're earning more, but you're keeping less. The math doesn't add up anymore. Let me show you what that looks like in real terms. In 2019, 34,000 people left Sydney for regional NSW. By 2023, that number hit 47,000. Melbourne saw similar trends. Between 2021 and 2023, over 60,000 residents moved to regional Victoria. The Australian Bureau of Statistics confirmed it. Internal migration out of capital cities is at a 20-year high. And it's not retirees. It's families, workers, people in their 30s and 40s who thought they were building something. Take Chloe, a teacher in Brisbane. She earned $85,000 a year. She saved for 6 years. She had $60,000 for a deposit. It wasn't enough. Every house she bid on went $100,000 over asking. Every inspection had 40 other people. She gave up, moved to Toowoomba, bought a 3-bedroom house for $450,000. She says she didn't leave by choice. She left because staying meant never owning anything. Then there's Marcus, software engineer, Melbourne, $130,000 salary. He spent 2 years looking. Every property in his budget was either 90 minutes from the CBD or needed $200,000 in renovations. He moved to Ballarat, bought a house for $550,000. Now he works remotely 3 days a week and commutes too. He says it feels like failure, even though he owns a house. Because the dream wasn't just ownership. It was belonging. And that's just the beginning. Because here's what people don't talk about. Leaving the city doesn't just mean leaving a postcode. It means leaving access. Regional towns don't have the same hospitals, the same schools, The same job markets. If you work in tech, finance, or media, regional Australia has almost nothing for you. You either work remotely, if your employer allows it, or you switch careers. Chloe could still teach, but her partner, who worked in marketing, had to take a logistics job. They are not alone. A 2023 report from the Grattan Institute found that people who move regionally for affordability see an average income drop of 12% within 2 years. They trade cost of living for career stagnation. And the social cost. That's harder to measure. Your friends are still in the city. Your family. Your network. You're not just leaving a place. You're leaving your entire support system. Weekend catch-ups become 4-hour drives. Birthday parties get missed. You stop being invited. Not because people don't care. Because you're just too far away. And the isolation compounds. Marcus says the hardest part wasn't the move. It was realizing he'd become invisible to the life he used to have. His friends still go to the same bars, the same restaurants. They talk about the same neighborhoods. And he's got nothing to contribute anymore. He owns a house, but he lost his place in the world. That's the trade nobody tells you about. And the cities? They don't miss them. Because the apartments and houses they left behind don't stay empty. They get filled. Just not by Australians. Between 2022 and 2024, Australia's net migration hit 518,000, the highest in the country's history. Most of those people settle in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. They are not buying houses. They are renting. They are sharing apartments. They are taking what's left. But they're also driving demand. More people. Same housing stock. Prices keep rising. The government says it's building more homes. The target is 1.2 million new homes by 2029. But in 2023, Australia approved just 163,000 homes. At that pace, we won't hit the target. And even if we do, it won't be enough. Because the people who left aren't coming back. Here's where it gets worse. Property investors know this. They are buying up what locals can't afford and renting it out at record rates. In Sydney, 60% of recent property purchases were made by investors, not owner-occupiers. They're not trying to live there. They are building portfolios. A 3-bedroom house in Parramatta gets bought for $1.2 million. Rented out for $900 a week. That's $46,800 a year in rent. The investor gets capital growth, tax deductions, negative gearing benefits. The renter gets nothing but a lease. And every year, the rent goes up. The city becomes an asset class, not a community. And the Australians who grew up there, they watch from regional towns, priced out of the place they called home. But let's talk about why this is happening. Because it's not random. It's not bad luck. It's policy. Australia's tax system rewards property investment. Negative gearing lets investors claim rental losses against their taxable income. Capital gains tax is discounted by 50% if you hold a property for more than a year. That means buying property, even at a loss, is financially smarter than almost any other investment. So investors keep buying. And first-home buyers keep losing. The Reserve Bank confirmed it. In 2023, first-home buyers made up just 23% of all property purchases. That's the lowest level in 15 years. At the same time, foreign investment in Australian residential property hit $5.9 billion. Not because Australia is a great place to live. Because it's a stable place to park money. Chinese investors, Singaporean investors, American funds. They are not moving here. They are buying apartments and leaving them empty. In Melbourne CBD, nearly 20% of apartments are unoccupied. They're just sitting there, appreciating. Meanwhile, rental vacancy rates are under 1%. People are being pushed out while buildings sit dark. And state governments, they are not stopping it. Victoria charges a vacancy tax. It's 1% of the property's value per year. For a $1 million apartment, that's $10,000. Sounds like a lot. But if the property appreciates by 5%, that's $50,000 in gains. You still come out ahead. This is the part nobody plans for. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Just not for the people who live here. So what happens when you realize you're never getting in? You adjust. You compromise. You rewrite the dream. Sarah, 34, works in finance in Sydney. She earns $140,000. She's single. No debt. Good credit. She's been saving for 8 years. She has $180,000 for a deposit. And she still can't buy anything she'd want to live in. The properties in her range are either an hour from work, next to a freeway, or in buildings with structural issues. She looked at a 2-bedroom unit in Penrith. $650,000. Sounded reasonable. Then she saw it. Crack walls. Water damage. Strata fees of $2,400 a quarter. She didn't bid. Now she's considering moving overseas. Maybe London. Maybe Singapore. Places where the cost of living is high, but at least the salaries match. She says the worst part isn't the price. It's the acceptance. Everyone around her has stopped talking about buying. They've just accepted they'll rent forever. And that shift. It's generational. Millennials were told if they worked hard, they'd own homes. Gen Z isn't even pretending. A 2024 survey by Westpac found that 54% of Australians aged 18 to 29 don't believe they'll ever own property. Not in 10 years. Not in 20. Never. That's not pessimism. That's math. And when an entire generation accepts that the system doesn't include them, the city stops being a place you build a life. It becomes a place you survive until you leave. So here's what no one wants to ask. If Australian cities are only affordable to the wealthy and the newly arrived, what happens to everyone else? Do they just accept that homeownership is over? That the suburbs their parents bought into for $300,000 are now investment properties worth $2 million? Do they keep moving further out, chasing cheaper land, longer commutes, fewer opportunities? Or do they leave the country entirely? Because that's happening too. In 2023, over 80,000 Australians moved overseas permanently. Not for adventure, for affordability. Places like Bali, Portugal, and Thailand offer what Australia used to, a decent life on a decent income. You can rent a villa in Bali for $1,200 a month. Work remotely, save money, or move to Lisbon. Pay $1,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment in the city centre. The same apartment in Sydney costs $4,000. These aren't backpackers. They are professionals. People who tried to make it work here and couldn't. And they are not coming back. Because once you realize you can have a better life for less money somewhere else, why would you? The cities promised success. But success required wealth you didn't have yet. And by the time you earned enough, the city moved the goalposts. So the question isn't why Australians are leaving cities. It's whether the people replacing them will ever feel like it's theirs. Or whether Australian cities are becoming something new entirely. Not communities. Not homes. Just expensive places where people pass through. Rent for a while. Then leave. And if that's the future, then the Australia people grew up believing in, it's already gone. Do you think Australian cities are still worth the cost? Or are they only built for people who are already rich?